From delicate slicing to heavy-duty chopping, there is the perfect angle for every task. And in this video, we'll find out what they are. That was satisfying. Welcome back to Sharpening Supplies. I'm Tom, and we're going to give you a cheat sheet that will tell you the exact angles you want to aim for all of your knives. Let's dive in. What is sharp? Sharpness is how easily an edge will pass through a material. It's made up of two main factors. The first is the apex radius, that's how pointy the edge is. The other is the sharpening angle. The lower the angle, the sharper the edge will be. Understanding knife angles. Just so we know what we're talking about, the sharpening angle is the angle that you'll hold the knife against the abrasive. It's also sometimes known as the bevel angle or degrees per side, sometimes abbreviated as DPS. You've also got the inclusive angle, and that is the total angle of the edge. It'll be double the sharpening angle. Got it? Good. Just as a quick note, there are other factors that will impact how sharp a knife is. Things like the material being cut, the technique that you're using, the material of the blade. If you're interested in finding out what makes things sharp, then make sure you're subscribed, because that's what we're all about. Hardness versus toughness of steel. So if a lower angle makes an edge sharper, why not just put the absolute lowest angle possible on all your knives? Well, let's look into that. All knives try and balance hardness with toughness. It's a bit like a seesaw. As one of those qualities goes down, the other one goes up in the steel. Because of the cutting tasks that they're designed for, some knives will be optimized for hardness, others toughness, and some knives try to strike a balance between the two. Harder steels typically do a better job of holding a lower angle, but if you put too low an angle on an edge, regardless of the steel properties, that edge will become delicate. If you go too low with a hard steel, when you use it, you'll damage the edge, usually through chipping or cracking the edge. If you go too low with a tough steel, the edge might roll when you use it. What we want to try and do is find the lowest possible angle without the edge becoming damaged during regular use. So what does that look like in the real world? What kind of angles should we put on specific knives? So let's dive in at the low end, under 10 degrees. This is a really low angle reserved for literal razor edges. So straight razors will usually get about 7 to 10 degrees put on them. It's quite easy to find the angle on a razor as the spine usually sets what angle you'll be sharpening at. So you can sharpen it quite easily on a whetstone. The Edge Pro Professional model will go down to 6 degrees if you want to use a guided system. 10 to 15 degrees. This is usually the lowest that you'd want to take something like a high-end Japanese knife. These are usually pretty hard, and if you're sharpening it between 10 and 15 degrees, you're really optimizing it for slicey sharpness. That edge is going to be a little bit delicate, so you might want to take special care with those knives. 10 to 15 degrees, you can sharpen that on a whetstone by hand. There are some guided sharpening systems that will go down that low. So the Tormek T1 will do 8 to 22 degrees. So if you want to sharpen your chef's knives between 10 and 15 degrees, Tormek T1 is a nice option for that if you want a guided system. 15 to 18 degrees. This is the range where you're going to find a lot of Japanese knives and newer Western chef's knives. It's a really nice range for slicing tasks in the kitchen. If you have a knife that came with a 20-degree bevel angle, you could try lowering its angle into this range if you want to try and improve its slicing ability. It should be able to handle it. I've got a few pocket knives where I've experimented with lowering the angle down to this range. So long as you've got a good steel on it and you're not going to be doing any hard chopping tasks, then it might turn your pocket knife into a better slicer. Of course, you can sharpen by hand at this angle, but in this range, pretty much all guided systems will be able to handle from 15 degrees and up. 18 to 22 degrees. If you're not trying to eke out the maximum performance out of your knives, you just want a good solid edge that isn't going to get damaged during regular use, then this range is for you. It'll give you the best performance for a widest range of knives, kitchen knives, pocket knives, even outdoor knives. 18 to 22 degrees is a nice area to sharpen pretty much any knife within. Those knives might not be as slicey as they could be if you went below that, but then you are optimizing a little bit more for durability. So when you use these knives, they're less likely to get damaged during regular use at least. 22 to 30 degrees. This range is for knives that are going to take some abuse. So if you've got things like bill hooks, machetes, meat cleavers, anything that you're chopping into hard material with, it will benefit from having a higher angle like this. If you want to sharpen at this angle, most guided systems will go up to 30 degrees, but you've got to be careful that knives that are built for abuse tend to be a little bit bigger, so you want to make sure that your knife will fit into a guided system depending on which one you want to go with. And of course, you can always sharpen by hand on whetstones in the 22 to 30 degree range. Sharpening angle is the key to unlocking the performance of your knives. Now remember, at sharpeningsupplies.com, we've got everything you need to change and set that sharpening angle for pretty much any knife. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below or give us a call. And remember to subscribe for more cutting edge content.